When we first met Peacemaker, he was a contradiction, preaching peace through violence, a man whose actions rarely matched his words. He wore his mission like armor, but it was clear that something deeper was driving him, something he couldn't admit even to himself. Hiding pain behind bravado and a shiny helmet, he tried to convince the world, and himself, that he was unbreakable. But every joke, every boast, was a shield against the wounds he carried. But beneath the flag and the swagger was Chris Smith, a broken man shaped by a monstrous father and haunted by tragedy. His past was a shadow he could never quite outrun, coloring every decision he made. Season 1 peeled back his layers, revealing a flawed, hilarious, and tragic figure searching for redemption. We saw the cracks in his armor, the moments when laughter gave way to tears, and the rare glimpses of hope that kept him moving forward. The real story was never just about aliens or explosions. It was about whether someone like Chris could truly change. Could a man so defined by violence and regret ever find forgiveness, or even forgive himself? Season 2 pushed him further, stripping away his certainties and forcing him to confront the damaged person beneath the mask. Every challenge forced him to question who he really was, and whether he could ever be more than his past. The monsters weren't just external anymore, they were inside his own head. His greatest enemy became his own self-doubt, his guilt, and the memories he couldn't escape. We wanted the audience to feel his confusion, anger, and desperate longing for connection. Every moment of vulnerability was a step toward healing, even if the path was never easy or straightforward. Chris Smith's journey is messy, emotional, and deeply human, a struggle to find peace with himself. His story reminds us that real change is slow, and that redemption is something you fight for every day. The hardest battle he faces isn't out in the world, but within. It's a fight that never truly ends, but one that's worth watching unfold. That's what makes his story worth telling. A reminder that even the most unlikely heroes can find the strength to change. This season, Chris couldn't escape his past. Repressed memories and guilt over his brother's death consumed him. Every quiet moment became a battleground, haunted by flashes of childhood and the echo of mistakes he could never undo. The pain was relentless, a shadow that followed him everywhere, coloring every decision and every relationship. His identity crumbled, leaving him vulnerable and volatile, straining his relationships, especially with Harcourt. The people closest to him felt the brunt of his inner chaos, his anger, his confusion, and his desperate attempts to push them away before they could abandon him first. The path to healing was anything but linear. Setbacks, regression, and self-doubt defined his journey. Each step forward was met with 2 steps back, as old wounds reopened and new fears took root. Chris found himself questioning whether he even deserved forgiveness or happiness. Chris had to learn that some battles can't be fought with fists. They require a different kind of strength. He was forced to confront his own vulnerability, to sit with his pain instead of running from it, and to accept that true courage sometimes means asking for help. The finale brought his turmoil to a head, reckless, desperate, but more human than ever. In his darkest moments, Chris lashed out, making choices that nearly destroyed him, but also revealed the depth of his suffering and his longing for redemption. The weight of killing Rick Flag Jr. and his own trauma became unbearable. Nightmares and guilt threatened to swallow him whole, leaving him isolated and on the brink of collapse. We broke him down to his core, leaving only Chris Smith, raw with grief and desperate for a second chance. Stripped of his bravado, he was forced to face the truth about himself and the pain he'd carried for so long. The world closed in, his mind a prison. This was no longer just a superhero story, but a psychological drama. Chris's struggle became a mirror for anyone who's ever felt trapped by their own mind, searching for a way out. The real risk wasn't death, but losing himself to darkness. The fight was internal, a battle for his very soul, and the outcome was far from certain. His journey proved that survival, not victory, is sometimes the greatest triumph. In the end, Chris Smith's story is about finding hope in the ruins, and the courage it takes to keep going, even when the world feels impossibly heavy. While Chris battled his demons, his team faced their own crisis. Cast out from ARGUS, they became Checkmate, a rogue agency. Harcourt stepped up as leader, Eponymous as tech wizard, Vigilante as unpredictable chaos, and new member Langston Fleury brought a steady hand. Their operations were messy, chaotic, and fueled by sheer will. The team became a dysfunctional family, arguing and fighting, but always having each other's backs. Judo Master's loyalty remained a wild card, adding tension to every mission. In the finale, their loyalty was tested to the limit. Outgunned, outmaneuvered, and fighting for survival. Their battle wasn't just against external threats, but for their own identity. No longer disposable, they proved themselves as heroes in their own right. The season was about forging their own path, living with the consequences. They became more than a Black Ops team, they became a family. The finale's mission centered on the quantum unfolding chamber, a device that could tear holes between dimensions. Rick Flag Sr. sent his elite squad on a dangerous journey into a hellish alien dimension. We aimed for a tone that was wild, fun, and deeply tragic, making the audience laugh, then hit them with loss. In the chaos, Langston Fleury died, a sudden, brutal loss that shattered the team. His absence left a gaping hole, especially for Harcourt, who bore the burden of leadership. The emotional fallout was profound, changing the characters forever. The mission succeeded, but at a devastating cost. The team was left fractured and mourning, questioning if their duty was worth the price. Sometimes victory comes with unbearable loss. The true villain wasn't a monster, but Rick Flag Sr., a man driven by grief and vengeance, wielding institutional power as a weapon. He orchestrated a psychological war against Chris, exploiting his guilt and self-doubt. Every move was calculated to break Peacemaker, not just kill him. Flag Sr. turned Argus into an instrument of revenge, betraying Chris and the very idea of justice. The finale revealed his master plan. The mission was a trap, and Chris's suffering was the goal. In the end, Flag Sr. had Chris abducted, not for a mission, but for punishment. It was a cold, bureaucratic erasure, not even granting Chris a final confrontation. Flag Sr. embodied the cycle of violence, grief twisted into heartless vengeance. His actions left Chris utterly broken, a victim of a system that devours its own. Sometimes the most dangerous villains are the ones who hide behind authority. The original ending was a quiet victory for Checkmate, a moment of triumph where order was restored and the world felt safe, at least for a while. But that felt too easy, too neat for Chris's journey. Instead, we chose a darker fate for Chris: banishment to the planet Salvation, a place that exists on the edge of the known universe, far from any hope of rescue or redemption. Salvation is a brutal, open-world prison for the most dangerous metahumans, those too powerful, too unpredictable, or too broken to be contained anywhere else. There are no guards, no walls, and no rules, only the harsh law of survival, where every day is a fight against the elements, the other prisoners, and your own fears. Chris is sent as a human test subject, a pawn in a much larger game, chosen not for his crimes but for what he represents, a symbol of hope, now cast into oblivion. It's a slow death sentence, meticulously orchestrated by Flag Sr., who sees Chris's exile as both punishment and experiment. Stripped of his team, his mission, and his home, Chris is utterly alone, exiled from everything and everyone he's ever known. Salvation is more than a prison. It's a physical manifestation of his internal torment, monsters outside, demons within, and no escape from either. His journey of self-discovery now unfolds in the most desolate place imaginable. The ending is heartbreaking. After all his struggle, after every sacrifice, he's ripped from hope and thrown into the unknown, forced to confront not just the dangers of salvation, but the darkness within himself. It's not just a cliffhanger, but a fundamental shift, a total upheaval of everything Chris thought he knew about himself and his place in the universe. Chris is now a survivor in a hostile galaxy, forced to adapt, to fight, and to find meaning in a world that wants him dead. His fight for peace has become a cosmic battle for survival, where every choice could be his last, and every ally could be a threat. The question isn't just if he'll escape, or even how, but whether he can hold on to his humanity in a place designed to strip it away. And if Chris ever does find a way out, who will he be when he returns? The answers lie somewhere beyond the horizon, waiting to be discovered. The finale opened the door to the wider DC universe, revealing Lex Luthor's subtle influence over Flag Sr. Luthor's manipulation recontextualizes the season. Flag Sr.'s vendetta is part of a larger, sinister agenda. Luthor sees everyone as a pawn, and Salvation as a testing ground for his ambitions. Chris didn't just make an enemy of a grieving father, but of one of the world's most dangerous minds. Stranded on Salvation, Chris's situation seems hopeless. No tech, no allies, no escape. This sets up a desperate future. How does a man like Chris survive a planet of supercriminals? The answer may lie with Superman, the man of tomorrow. Peacemaker's return could depend on the hero he's always mocked, creating a powerful narrative thread. Their ideological clash is ripe for drama and growth. Sometimes, exile by a villain is what leads a broken man to a true hero. We toyed with wild ideas for the finale, including a Ryan Reynolds Deadpool cameo. The thought of Peacemaker and Deadpool sharing the screen was tempting. Two irreverent, fourth-wall-breaking anti-heroes colliding. We imagined a post-credits scene where Deadpool stumbles into the DCU, bantering with Chris. But ultimately, we decided against it. The emotional weight of Chris's story needed to stay front and center. A big crossover would have distracted from the gut punch of the finale. Still, the idea shows our creative freedom and love for the genre. Maybe, somewhere in the multiverse, that scene happened. For now, it's a fun what-if in superhero history. The Season 2 finale marks the end of Peacemaker as we know it, but not the end of Chris Smith's story. His banishment to Salvation launches a new chapter within the DC universe. The heart of the show has always been Chris's internal journey, his struggle to change, to heal, to become more than a joke. On Salvation, he can't rely on weapons or bravado, only on the man he's becoming. It's a trial by fire that will either forge him or destroy him. The future is uncertain but full of potential, unlikely allies, impossible odds, and maybe, finally, a chance at real peace. His story was never about a simple hero's journey, but a broken man's fight to heal. Thank you for joining us on this wild, emotional ride. The dove of peace is still flying, just in a very different sky.